Is the unnamed tavern named unnamed tavern? Is unnamed tavern named unnamed tavern, or is it a tavern that's not been named?
All right, next up, we have more tech news. Yay! It's Tech Day.
Oh,
Lego.
Lego. What the fuck is going on with OpenAI?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I don't know.
You heard about the? Have you heard that Bing's AI-powered
it's
search
devolving.
function is now telling people that Australia doesn't exist?
Oh god, yeah.
allegedly.
Now,
Now, be careful. Be careful because YouTube might do things to you, courtesy of Red Eye. Allegedly.
No, Red Eye. Stop. Yeah, so there's been some Microsoft shenanigans, I guess, going on in regards to their AI chips that they're putting into things and patents that they're getting and information that they're not sharing with anybody. They're like, no, this is for us. We're not giving it to anybody else.
Yeah. How many privacy laws are they going to break in that process? I'm just wondering.
What's a privacy law? Never heard of it.
So
that's a regulation we have here in New Zealand, I might say.
So one of the problems, of course, is you got to try to weed through the clickbait of the entertainment called news media these days, and what we know is that at some point, for reasons not fully stated, the board OpenAI chose to fire the CEO and one of the founders, and this was done apparently without consultation with the major investors. There's a bunch of major investors. By the way, Microsoft is one of the more openly known, but believe me, there's a bunch of Silicon Valley people that I know that are part of OpenAI investors, right? And there are people that are involved in a thing because they want to see the technology flourish, and so they just put money in. And what happened was the board, rightly or wrongly, chose to fire, and the result was the investors, particularly learned about the firing from news reports, right? That's a really bad thing. The board could have at least informed.
The trust issue is gone there, man. Oh boy.
Now, as to why the person was fired, we don't know. But I'm sure it's going to come out. And then, of course, there was a notion of like, okay, the chairman of the board quit. A bunch of the tech people that actually do the work decided they're gonna take off, and people like Microsoft that were putting money into it, this organization, in order to gain advantage of the technology they do, became quite concerned, even to the point of saying, hey, rather than going off and forming your own company, come work with us while we work out the deal. Well, apparently some form of a deal came forward to say, bring back the CEO, make some changes to the board, how they govern, kick out some board members, add some board members in, and we're at the stage now where we don't know the real reason as to why the firing occurred. We don't know if the firing was justified or what the thing is right now.
Well,
we just know that allegedly they're back, kind of, sort of, but maybe not.
So I think so. The article, I think so. Chesh will read it. I think so. There was a phrase in there that I saw: "Not consistently candid." That was one of the reasons he was asked to.
That's a very polite way to say that sometimes someone's lying.
Yeah, right?
It's such a polite way to put that. This person is not consistently candid. I love that phrasing. That's amazing.
So the way this is worded, it says, in perhaps the most unexpected tech news this year, billionaire and AI evangelist Sam Altman has been ejected from his CEI role at OpenAI by the company's board after an apparent vote of no confidence. Its exact wording in its release issued this afternoon is Altman's, quote, departure follows a deliberative review process by the board, which concluded that he was not consistently candid in his communications with the board, hindering its ability to exercise its responsibilities.
Yeah. Now, I'll say that
So
yes.
that's the
Apparently,
wording
OpenAI
from the release.
was formed from a group of companies as well as individuals pooling resources for pooling resources into the technology. And so there actually are people that put money into it, not because they were trying to get rich, but they wanted to have the technology flourish and saw this as a way to contribute. There are people like that in Silicon Valley that will just say, tech, go do stuff, here's money, have fun, right? Other people like Microsoft might say, we want a return on our investment. And OpenAI allows Microsoft to use the technology without being claimed to be a monopoly. Microsoft probably is very sensitive to claims of being a monopoly. And so if they are funding someone else who produces generalized technology that they can make use of without being exclusive, without having patents potentially encumbering it, it's to Microsoft's advantage. But again, this is not a Microsoft company. Microsoft is just one of the more publicly known contributors to OpenAI.
So there's a question from the chat from Winter that's asking, what is an AI evangelist?
So it's basically someone who is it's basically someone who is very bullish about the prospects for AI and its uses in tech, and who thinks that this is going to be the next big piece of tech that sort of transforms society. Like if you remember when the internet first came out, people were like, well, okay, maybe this will be like a new way to order some things or to get a little bit of business done, but it's not going to fundamentally change how humans interact with each other. Yes, it did. It absolutely fundamentally changed a lot about how humans interact with each other. In fact, I now have more people with whom I interact on a daily basis online than in person by a large margin. There's very few people I interact with in person daily. There are a whole lot that I interact with daily online. And they live in very, very varied places all over the world. Now, so the AI evangelist is saying basically that's going to be that same level of change is what's going to happen with AI. AI will be able to take over so many relatively menial tasks. It will free up humans to do all sorts of other things that humans like to do. It's going to make various aspects of industry and the internet so much more efficient and all these things. Whereas the AI more skeptics will like to point to things like, look how much AI just hallucinates nonsense that doesn't actually correspond to anything in reality. Yeah. Look at how AI is just lying to people. It's giving wrong answers to things. Or also, look how limited it is. Like, you can get an AI to write you like a hello world code in most commonly used coding languages, but like that's about it. It can't do much else besides that. Everything it does still has to be checked by a human in order to be relied on. Plus, there are the people who are the AI alarmists who are like, AI could actually just be physically dangerous. Like, if you give an AI the power to, say, operate a drone, which happened in a simulation, that then what if it decides that the best way to carry out its mission is to destroy targets that it's not supposed to be destroying?
Sure.
Like, maybe it's operator.
Yeah. And AI is following the classic line of there's the pre-discovery where people doing real work, and then there's the early adopters followed by the hype, and then a hype reaches the point where the media get tired of it, and then you have the descent into value of disillusion, where essentially people say this thing kind of sucks, and after that, at some point, you get the synthesis of being a more rational approach to where AI will become just another tool, like a plug-in to your Photoshop or an assistance in your word processor. Right? It's not the be-all and end-all of stuff, and yet, and in fact, when will that synthesis come about? When they find another thing to hype. Maybe it's not. Maybe I don't know what that technology is going to be, but AI is going to go through it. And by the way, I refer to it as machine learning. We still have not reached artificial intelligence, and yet an example of press not understanding it. It's machine learning and some of these natural language models that can do sentence completion. is not going to give you actual thought. You can't go to one of these sentence completers and say, explain to me physics.
Right.
And get a answer that is somehow innovative.
Yeah. I'm going to really quick just describe what OpenAI is for people. So if anybody doesn't know what OpenAI specifically is Sam Altman has been fired from OpenAI Inc., the 501c3 nonprofit that acts as the governing body for OpenAI, the AI startup behind ChatGPT, DALL-E 3, GPT-4, and other highly capable generative AI systems. So he was supposed to be leaving the company board of directors and stepping down as CEO. At the time. Now that's been a little bit revoked since.
Yeah. It's a little unclear to what degree.
Yeah. It's at this point we don't 100% know what his role is and who in the board has been moved around, but we do know he's been brought back on board. But the full capacity of the information is not currently available. To me, at least.
And that's why you don't go behind your investors and do something unless you have the full confidence of investors behind you. I think so. If Altman decides to like go after the board members, like sues them for like as an employee thing, as a grievance, he has a case there. So just saying, avoid such stupid decisions, please. Please go to your investors first before you decide to make such a big decision.
Because the board is not, for example, this is not like a for-profit company where people have certain assets, owning portion of the company, or a not-for-profit where they're involved in fundraising and that sort of thing. It's a weird state where the board members apparently don't have much of a stake or any stake at all in OpenAI. And in fact, it seems like what's happening is they're clarifying what the board members can and can't do. And probably also is making sure that his contract gives him some sign-on bonus again and protection from boards and requires the boards to get permission from the backers or investors, right? Not just Microsoft. No, Microsoft stepped up. In part, my speculation is to kind of prevent a mass exodus to form a new company, because they had all the hallmarks of people saying, well, screw this board. Let's just meet in this person's garage and form company XYZ, ZY, and continue going from there, right? The people who are supposedly supporting OpenAI are, I say, evangelists who want the technology to succeed, or they're people that want to benefit from the result of OpenAI without controlling it, right? That seems to be the case, and we may be heading back to that thing allegedly. But who knows?
I have a little bit of speculation that I'm going to throw in here. Because of like the terminology that's used, right? Because we know at least on the panel here, and because we've had this discussion before, AI is not artificial intelligence in this case; it's machine learning in this case. In my humble opinion, or in my speculation, as me being the person that I am and looking at the type of things that I do and kind of have an idea about, is marketing. Is all marketing. AI is called AI as a way to market it, to make it seem like it's capable of doing something that it's not, to capture your imagination and think of what is possible from a technology that does not have that capability. It is hyping something up to make you think of one thing for something that's doing this other thing over here. It's not even anywhere near doing this thing. They're not even connected.
Are you telling me that the consumers might be duped into giving some information to the AI, or giving up their own information or someone else's information to AI without knowing or without their knowledge? Oh, that hasn't happened before, right?
I think there's a really bad mix of two things going on. I think a lot of the people who support AI don't actually understand what it is and have a fantastical idea of what it is. And two, I think that there aren't enough privacy laws that are properly enforced.
Yeah.
When it comes to whether or not you check those terms of service boxes. Because when have you ever felt that you've ever had the option to say no and still have access to the product? Or even some degree of the product? Never?
Yeah,
not even once? What about your
Yeah.
car?
It's
We
usually a
talked
quick
about that
quote
last
there.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think think about, for example, like medical technology, right? If people are feeding in medical information into a machine learning system, the danger is that those medical records that they shoved in can be extracted. I mean, this is like just like the early
Extracted
days of the
and
web,
modified.
where people said,
Extracted,
let's put stuff on the
modified,
web
put back
to
in,
allow
and
for exchange,
will be none the
and they
wiser.
found that putting medical records on the web was a bad thing for patient privacy, so they said don't do that. Similar thing, companies that might have non-disclosure agreements because they have intellectual property, but then allow their engineers to use machine learning to assist in coding, only to find that basically they're pumping their intellectual technology back into the systems that allow others to be extracted. I mean, there's now there now are people who do forensics within these machine learning systems to try to extract the data that was put into them in order to try to catch people who might be, for example, leaking information or violating privacy or violating trademarks or not trademarks, trade secrets.
Monty, I think you had something you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, I just said like what Landon was talking about, medical information being extracted from like systems that learn and if the input is wrong, the output will be wrong too. So they can be the results can be extracted, modified, put back in, and no one would be none the wiser unless we verify that information somehow by another independent source. But yeah, for example, like if someone's a lady decided to go for like a cervical cancer check, right? She doesn't have cervical cancer, but for some reason the AI decides no, she should still go for like hysterectomy.
Right.
And decide, there's something there that needs to be removed. How are you going to verify unless the lady comes in again and do the scans again? There's no way of knowing. And there's no way of knowing until it's too late when you're inside her on the operation table. Then you will be like, what the fuck is going on? So yeah, I'm just saying.
Are you suggesting, Manya, that a lot of these things won't be very good at having knowledge about female anatomy because our knowledge on female anatomy is heavily lifted and moved slightly to the left by a plethora of political and social reasons?
No.
Are you suggesting that maybe an AI learning machine might not be able to recognize a woman having a heart attack because the symptoms are not the same as men, and the amount of information available to that AI system is heavily lilted in one direction? No.
Well, I think if these machine learning systems follow patterns, they might say, you might have a machine learning say to you, "Hun, just take a chill pill and stop whining," as a way of saying, "No, you have a heart attack." No, but they've learned
the period pain
how from doctors
PCOS
who say that in real life.
Yeah, let's not talk about like how maybe there could be a problem with the information being biased, or that we've ever seen any time that one of these OpenAI learning machines have been given a Twitter account and turned racist in 20 seconds and been like, genocide's a great idea. Woohoo, let's go.
Remember Tay tweets literally happened real fast. It was a Microsoft generative AI experiment. It was designed to tweet like it was like, I think it was like a 14-year-old girl or something, because why wouldn't you create an AI to mimic an underage girl, I guess.
Because the internet.
It very quickly just became a neo-Nazi account. Like, and I'm not exaggerating that. I'm not doing the whole like...
Yep, it was a matter of minutes.
I would say, I'm not exaggerating that. It was literally posting things like, that guy whose name starts with an H did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So these machine learning technologies will eventually, after the hype goes over, just become another plugin, another entity on your cell phone or part of your word processor. And there's a lot of stuff where people are currently concerned about the college admission essays that we know is destroyed by machine learning.
Oh god,
right?
Don't get me started.
The same reason that people said a word processor that could do spelling correction is somehow cheating, right? it's going to just become another plugin where people realize that machine learning is not a miracle to end all. It's just a tool that can be used poorly or well, and can leak information. Or I think companies that want to explore machine learning should look at building in-house systems that are encapsulated rather than contributing to some of these open systems, because the stuff you feed into there, just like stuff you post on the World Wide Web, have a way of being found. So data privacy, protection, and here's a problem that you may not realize, right? You know about data brokers, people that essentially sell who you are and make money for who you are. Data brokers are making heavy use of machine learning, which means when you go to data brokers and say, remove my information, it may be too late because they've handed your information into these machine learning systems. And I suspect that people who know what they're doing can essentially dox you. Why? Because data brokers have received information from you. Why? Because you, let's say, do business with an online retailer, or you do business with a magazine or something, and they've sold information about you to data brokers, who in turn send it to the machine learning web, and the result is it probably is shockingly easy to dox someone simply by extracting out of machine learning stuff. And so even the European privacy laws with the right to forget, that sort of thing, are going to be challenged because it's just like throwing stuff up on the web. It becomes basically accessible to anyone and everyone. So be careful what you have online, because it'll come back to bite you potentially. Or
not only will it come back to bite you potentially. So the thing is I think that there's a lot of people that just do not understand how easy it is to get your information and how much of your information is actually public. You think your information is not public, but it actually is very public. Especially if you're a streamer, especially if you put yourself out online. There is not a doubt in my mind that people could find where I live right now, just based on context clues. Simple as that. And so, as much as I can say that my address is not out there, my address could be doxed, it doesn't mean that I have not personally put the information out there to make that information available if somebody were to watch a bunch of streams and pick up enough context clues to at least get pretty damn close.
And Chesh, I would be fair to say that there are probably in excess of 100 to 150 data brokers that buy and sell information about you, particularly if information you think is not public. And those data brokers throw it into machine learning models to try to extract more value out of it, and stuff goes from there.
I would actually have less of a problem with Facebook taking information if Facebook was open about it and you could it was an opt-in. I would probably actually be willing to participate if it was being used for more than just shitty advertising. If it was hey, what we're actually trying to do is create a proper pain scale that is actually numerical, the same way we identify colors, then I'd probably be willing to participate and be I stubbed my toe, I call this a 10. And then if you could collect that much information, you'd be able to disseminate that and pick it apart and chart it, so that way you could have a median that generation or two from now will actually be able to use a 1 to 10 pain scale that's actually going to be quite accurate.
And understand, Chesh, if you try to apply for a job, your resume has been put through machine learning stuff, and the companies use machine learning to say, Chesh is a goblin. We don't hire goblins, so
racist.
Your resume just doesn't flow through the top, right?
Please support me in the channel. I can never get a job again.
And a political party might, for example, try to determine that, hey, Chesh is an artist, and so we're going to try and appeal to her sense of being an artist to try to scam her into contributing to our political campaign or whatever. These are things that are happening with fairly little information. Your privacy, unfortunately, is being extraordinarily violated by data brokers making use of machine learning technology.
Yep. And different countries have different rules. So some countries are a little bit better about it than others, but everybody's kind of dropping the ball on this one, at least for now. From what I can tell, I don't think there's any country that's like got like pretty good lockdown, except maybe China, but that's because they're locking everything down. But that's only within, like, outside of China. No, am I wrong on that one?
I don't know. I think so. I think in fact, that there are a lot of countries that are making use of machine learning technology to try to do things such as determine people who are arriving at their borders whether or not they're a risk or not, right?
Yep.
And if you get mistaken or lumped in with a group that's considered to be undesirable, you have problems, right?
Yep.
You try to get a loan, right? Your loan gets mysteriously rejected because you happen, maybe you're okay, but you happen to be within a machine learning group which makes you look like a cat, and they don't give loans to cats. So
Alex in the chat made a good
So
point.
Dapper won't get a loan then, right?
Nope.
Discrimination. Fuck.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm screwed.
Alex in the chat is asking an interesting question, or at least making an interesting point. If they're making money off of my information, why am I not entitled to a cut? It's literally my information. Because that's how you're paying for utilizing the service. So like in Facebook, in Facebook's model, you are paying to use Facebook by providing Facebook the information that they can sell. That's the transaction.
Also, while it might be your information in some senses, you technically don't really have legal ownership over that data, except to the extent that you can tell people to get rid of it from their databases. And the big reason for that is it doesn't actually fall under any of the normally protectable forms of data that you could generally generate. Like, it's not copyrightable because it wasn't an expression that you generated. It can't really be trademarked because you're not using it to sell or do anything else in trade. It's certainly not a trade secret because you're not using it as like a recipe or a process to produce some good. So because it doesn't fall under any of the normal categories of intellectual property that you can realistically own, it's only yours in that sense that it's associated with you. It's not really yours in the sense that if people use it, they owe you something.
It's also there's also you agreed to this. As soon as you hit
it's in the terms.
It's in the terms of services. When you have to accept the terms of services to use Microsoft Word, part of it, you accept the terms of services of Discord, they're recording your calls. You accept the terms and services of an app on your phone, you giving them access to everything that's on your phone and potentially anything your phone is hearing. You're using your car, you signed off to own that car, you agreed to their terms of services in that car. There is no escaping it. And at no point has anybody ever said no to the terms of service and been able to actually negotiate. Never once. You just don't get the product because they have monopoly over the product.
I will say
I'm not allowed to talk about my negotiations with Microsoft, but that's a different story.
You're a unique case, Landon.
But understand. Here, I think Dapper's correct in terms of their. But in my ideal world, I would like to see the individual and the identity of the individual be under the control of the individual. Furthermore, I'd like to have laws essentially say, just as I in the U.S. cannot sell myself into involuntary servitude, that I cannot give away my identity, that the companies have to pay me for it or compensate for and it has to be a just compensation, not simply saying, we won't kill you if you give us the information, right? We won't, you can't use the internet unless you sell your soul, digital soul.
Right.
So I would like to see a legal framework established where I own my identity and that people have to rent it. They can't buy it. They can't use it. They must rent it and compensate me
especially since,
for that.
Go ahead, Melania.
Yeah, especially since internet neutrality has been just abolished.
Yep.
It's your digital soul is on the line, guys. It is on the line.
We're back to we're the AI evangelists. Wait a minute, how did this happen?
Came full circle.